Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be about an experience I went through last week. So I applied for a direct hire position as an ALT in one of the BOEs here in Japan. BOE stands for Board of Education. I don't want to disclose the BOE where I applied just for, privacy's sake. But don't worry, I will run through all the details of the interview questions and all that. I just want to make it clear that you can only apply for a direct hire position if you are already here in Japan working and if you have the instructor's visa. I know some BOEs though, they accept applicants with a dependent's visa and that they sponsor this applicant for him or her to get an instructor's visa, granting you have all the requirements you need to change your visa type. So I know some of you might ask where I found the job posting for this direct hire position. I found this job posting because I am a member of a group in Facebook that posts anything and everything about living in Japan, like travel tips, like events. Some people also post job postings, so that's how I knew about this direct hire position. For the resume, I just searched in Google how to make a Japanese resume, although in the job posting they did not put in detail if they prefer a Japanese resume or an English resume, but I submitted a Japanese resume. I'll put the link down below in the description box. In that website, they have a template of a Japanese resume format. You just have to fill in your information. What I did to type kanji, katakana, I just used Google Translate, and I also used katakana keyboard and hiragana keyboard on the internet online. I asked my Japanese friend to check if I did it the right way. She was very helpful and she edited some parts. So I sent in my resume to the address provided, and then after 3 days I got the response telling me about the interview date. So they let me choose 2 dates. I chose the date that's the most convenient for me. So I went to the venue. My interview schedule was at 11 o'clock, but I wanted to come to the venue as early as possible. I left home around 7:30 and I got to the venue at around 10:30. I went up to the building and I waited outside the room at around 10:35. At 10:50, they saw me waiting outside. I'm not sure if there was a person interviewed right before me because when I got into the room, there was no one there. But while I was waiting, I heard the panel laughing and they were talking. So I'm not sure because when I got in, there was no applicant. The panel consisted of 2 Japanese interviewers. So the first thing that I did my Chico in Japanese. Chico is self-introduction. I wanted to impress them and I want to put my best foot forward. That's why I spoke in Japanese. I had my Chico all memorized. And yeah, that was just pure memory. For the interview, they did not instruct me to speak in Japanese, but I spoke Japanese anyway because again, I wanted to impress them. And my Japanese isn't that perfect, guys. It's not perfect. I know words, I know vocabularies, but I just can't string them in one sentence. After my Chico I sat down and then they started asking me questions in Japanese. Luckily, guys, I understood most, if not all of the questions, and I answered in my broken Japanese. But there was one question I did not understand. The question was, why did you come to Japan? I don't know why I didn't get it, but he must have used a little deep Japanese. That's why I didn't really get it. The other interviewer asked me in English. It was difficult for me to answer in Japanese because it was kind of a long story. But of course, I made my answer as short as possible. Both of them could understand English, so there was no problem. And then they read through my resume to confirm some details about my work experience and about my certifications. There were no personal questions asked. Maybe the most personal question was, why did you come to Japan? And that's it. And then after reading through my resume, they started talking about their expectations of an ALT, and they started telling me that they are hiring for 4 ALTs, 3 for elementary and only 1 for junior high school. They also mentioned about the driving conditions going to school in winter. So for this position, they require applicants to have a driver's license, a Japanese driver's license. And they also asked me whether I prefer elementary or junior high school. And in this part, I was totally honest with them and I told them that that I prefer junior high school. They're only hiring for one junior high school ALT, so they asked me why I prefer junior high school, and then I told them it's because I've been used to teaching junior high school, and in my current position I teach junior high school. I like it, and I like the students, I like my schools. I did not mention this in the interview, but in my mind I really don't like teaching elementary because the Japanese teachers or the HRTs can't really speak English well, and I can't speak that fluent Japanese yet, so teaching in junior high school is more convenient for me. Although I am a licensed kindergarten teacher in the Philippines, I've only experienced teaching kids for a year. My experience with the junior high school is longer than my experience teaching kids. One more personal question is that they asked me if I am married or I am getting married soon, and I told them no, I'm not, and I'm single. They asked me if it's okay if I live alone since I'm single and not married. They also asked me how long I've been driving in Japan, so I told them I got my license after a year of living in Japan and driving in Japan, so I converted my Philippine license to a Japanese driving license. They also asked me if I own a car. I told them I don't. The car that I am driving now is a rental car provided by my company. They told me that if I get the job, I should procure my own car at my own cost. For me, to be honest, it wasn't the most difficult interview in my life because they didn't really ask me difficult questions. It's not as difficult as my interview with my dispatch company, and the questions just revolve mainly about the job, and I know because I've been working as an ALT for 3 years now, so I know how to deal with things at school. So they didn't really ask me a lot of questions because they know that I've been teaching for 3 years in Japan. The first part of the interview was around 15 minutes. Here comes the second part. The second part was something I did not expect. They asked me to do a Chico to a class of elementary students. They just wanted to see me how I do my first day lesson. Usually for ALTs, the first day lesson revolves around Chico, and so I introduced myself. I didn't have any pictures with me, so I just tried my best, and I tried to make the lesson as interactive as possible. The interviewer who acted as students, I also asked them like what they like, what their hobbies are, what their favorite color is, and so yeah, I did it as interactive as possible. And this lasted for around like 5 minutes. After this, there's another task, and this was also again unannounced, but honestly, I was already expecting for a teaching demo because you're applying for a teaching position. So there must be a teaching demo. Here in this part, they prepared cards for me, but then the cards were really random and they were so tiny. So I asked them the conditions, like the class size and the level of the students, and they told me it's again elementary level and with like maybe 30 students. I was given a few seconds to think what lesson I could do with all the random cards presented to me. And so here in this part, you really need to think and act quick because you won't be given a long time to prepare. Your experience teaching will really help you create the lesson. For me, it was the most difficult part because I did not prepare for anything, and the cards weren't the cards I wanted to do a lesson for, so it was quite challenging. The good thing about what I did in this part of the interview is that I did not panic, so I was able to think clearly and think as quickly as possible. I conducted the lesson. One of the interviewers acted as the JTE and one of them acted as a student. They didn't tell me how long the demo teaching will last. I just continued my lesson, presenting like the cards and all that. However, I ended my teaching demo when I couldn't think of any more to do because I thought at that moment, if I make this longer, I might make more mistakes. The lesson was just short, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And so when I'm done, I told them I'm done. And I don't know if they liked my teaching demo, to be honest, because I really have no idea. But I really did my best. And I showed lots and lots of energy and I made it as interactive as possible. And also the interviewers were so helpful and they were also very participative. And this is the part where I'm not sure I did right because they told me it's an elementary school setup. So usually teacher 1 is the ALT and T2 is the HRT or the homeroom teacher. So basically this HRT just supports the ALT in conducting the lesson. And in my teaching demo, I didn't really ask him to do anything, so he just stood right beside me the whole time. I'm not sure if they liked what I did, that he just stood there. In reality, this is what's really happening in an elementary school classroom. The HRT just stands right beside the ALT without doing anything at all. So I don't know if I did the right thing, but yeah, that's how my demo went. After my demo, they thanked me, and then I sat down again. Here, they told me that a lot of applicants who sent in the resume, so they can't really give me an assurance that I'm gonna get the position or the job. So they told me that for the results, they will contact me again a week later. So I'm not really expecting for anything, guys, honestly, because if I were to rate my interview, it would be like 8, and my demo teaching, it would be like 7. It's not as perfect as I wanted it to be, partly because I don't know if I really want this job, so I wasn't that motivated. They told me that if I won't hear from them come Monday, it means that I did not get the job. Since it's a driving position, they told me that I should start looking for a car because I will need it if I accept the job. After their final words, they asked me if I have any questions for them. Before the interview, I actually jotted down like 8 or 9 questions, but when I was there, I couldn't think of the questions I wrote down. I could only think of 3 questions. The first question I asked was if national holidays and spring breaks and winter breaks are paid, and they told me that it's unpaid since it's a non-working day. But again, this depends on the BOE. Not all BOEs have the same contract. Not all BOEs are driving position. It really is ESID. Every situation is different and every contract is different. My second question was about housing. I asked if I am gonna be placed in a teacher's housing and if they subsidize, and yes, they told me that if I get the job, I will be placed in a teacher's housing and that it is subsidized. And my third question was how much do I have to pay for rent, and they told me it's around 10 to 20,000, which is a good deal because in Japan rent is really high. 20,000 yen for rent is fairly cheap. I actually filmed myself after the interview. However, after a few days, I thought that what I filmed, what I vlogged, wasn't as coherent and as concise. I think it's because I've just gotten out from the interview and my mind was all over the place. I was babbling and my thoughts were just really over the place. So I decided to just redo and refilm this video. The reason why I created this video because I want to experience myself how it is to apply for a job here in Japan. I want to challenge myself. I wanted to undergo the Japanese style of recruitment. That's why I applied for this job. It is not because I really want the job and that I plan to move. 50% of me right now wants to gain a new experience. So if I do get the job, then I'll probably have to think about it and we'll see. But in my next video, I'll let you know whether or not I'm moving, whether or not I accept the job. Stay tuned for that video. Anyway, that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you find it helpful and informative. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. The subscribe button is right here. Also, please don't forget to click the bell button so that you get notified whenever I upload a new video. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.